I've got Sharon Bowles here with me. She's the European Parliament's chairwoman for Economic and Monetary Affairs to discuss this and other issues. Sharon, do you think there's a concern about inconsistency in the sort of bank regulations that are being proposed at the moment? And is that a problem?
I don't think it's a problem yet, because I think there is more that is consistent than inconsistent, in that there's going to be everybody moving towards Basel II and the new changes that are being made to that, including capital on trading book. And Commissioner Barnier has reached an agreement with the United States over that means we will move forward. And of course, the US hadn't even signed up to Basel II before. So I think there is progress. With things like resolution funds, then of course you do have different circumstances dependent upon whether you have to deal with a cross-border situation, which is very much the case in Europe, or whether you are a country where you only have to go sort of cross-state, but you are fundamentally the same country.
And a lot of these inconsistencies, if you like, might possibly be ironed out at the G20.
Well, yes, possibly, but I think it's a good idea for G20 to discuss the follow-up to the proposals that they made. But you have to recognise G20 doesn't make laws. It then has to go through Congress. It has to go through the Council and the Parliament here in Europe. And you know, we are not sort of being able to follow line by line exactly what goes on in Congress, and they not us. But we do meet and discuss and compare and contrast and nudge towards the same positions.
Speaking of resolution funds in particular, and what we might expect today from the Commission in terms of the proposals, are you concerned that at this stage asking banks to actually pay into a fund would inhibit their ability to lend, given the fact that economic growth in Europe is just so fragile right now?
Well, I guess it's going to be a question of how much you're asking them to pay. If it's a small levy that is intended to build up over time, then maybe the consequences on the real economy won't be such a problem. And of course, that is the way that national resolution funds are built up anyway. So I'm not sort of instinctively against that, because you can't expect them to pay the whole amount in over 1 year. We're saying, OK, let's build something up. And I think the other point goes back to the one that I made, that we have to deal in Europe with the cross-border situation. And it would take a very long time indeed to harmonise our bankruptcy laws. Now, that's something that I think we should do. It's ridiculous to have a single market and then to go national when you get to the point of bankruptcy. But the fact is, assets get frozen that if you like, they by right or fairness belong in one member state, they nevertheless get sort of sucked in and isolated in another. And having these resolution funds, I think, provides a sort of neat mechanism to try and get around that, because then you can have a network of agreements as to how you resolve the cross-border situations as well.
One thing that happened just this month, Germany slapped a ban on naked short selling. Now, is that an area, do you think, that Europe should be looking into, banning naked short selling? And what do you think about the way it was done and the ensuing instability that it caused?
I think there's a lot of things to be said about that. I think that it's reasonable for Europe to have a look at naked short selling. And of course, the day that the ban was made in Germany was also the same day in which CESA, the Committee of European Regulators, came out with its draft proposals on short selling. But I mean, I think the move in Germany was quite clearly a political one, not for technical reasons. It was a political one so that they could get the bailout package through the Parliament, show a certain amount of strength, and I think there is tantamount been an admission of that. Of course, the consequences were perhaps rather larger than they predicted. And again, I think it's interesting to look at the consequences. It replicates what happened last time when there were bans, that it's the people who are holding shares long that are bailing out of it, that are selling them.
Sharon Bowles, thank you very much for coming to us on this cold day in Brussels.